It is now 11 o'clock, and it's time to start our show. So I want to welcome you once again to yet another cannot miss Saturday morning live at 11. My name is Don Lebo, and I will be your host from coast to coast. Before we introduce our very special guests, I need to welcome into our best listeners of all time family the following cities we want to welcome home: Rapid City, South Dakota; Coos Bay, Oregon; Fort Smith, Arizona; Norwalk, Connecticut; Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Welcome home. We're glad to have you tuning in today, and I guarantee you will find this hour very well spent. You'll be glad you tuned in with us, and ultimately we anticipate the ability to find someone to help as a result. So at this time, I also need to mention and thank our supporting family of sponsors who, together with you, the greatest audience of all time, which I am truly honored to have goats for our audience, the greatest of all time, and the K-Zern Community and Veterans Outreach make this show possible. We're including in our family of sponsors and supporters Wise Markets, your local family-owned grocer since 1928. Even if you don't shop often, shop wisely, my friends. Locally produced fresh vegetables and meats at great prices for your family. Find your selections and save each week in their circular either online or in store. Mission Barbecue, where great American barbecue has been smoked and served since 2011. Mission Barbecue began with the passion and patriotism of two partners, Bill and Newt, who decided to give back by serving those who have served, and this would be their patriotic duty. Since then, Mission Barbecue has grown to have restaurants in 20-plus states. This is just since 2011. From New York to Florida, and as far west from the East Coast as Colorado and Oklahoma. So you should be able to find one near you today. Fabio and Joe's Gourmet Subs and Pizza. Located in the heart of downtown Palmyra, Pennsylvania, Fabio and Joe's are the kings of cheesesteaks and gourmet pies. Philly-style cheesesteaks without having to travel and parking to and in Philly. Call and let them know you heard their ad right here on Saturday Morning Live at 11, and Joe will add in a large fry on us. I tried to talk to him about that, but somebody's got to cough it up. So call 717-832-3007. That number again is 717-832-3007. Call ahead for takeout or delivery right now. And finally, Galaxy Life Mining Company, a complete HYIP investment system licensed in the U.S. and based in California. They're an international financial company engaged in investment activities which are related to mining, trading on financial markets, and gold exchanges performed by quality professional traders. Their goal is to provide their investors with a reliable source of high income while minimizing any possible risks and offering a high-quality service, allowing them to automate and simplify the relations between the investors and the trustees. Notice they didn't say managers there, they said trustees. We work towards increasing your profits by profitable investment. We look forward to you being part of their community, and please contact Benjamin Smith, and his email is Benjamin, BENJAMINSM 64 @gmail.com. If you'd like any additional information on any of our sponsors or supporters in our family, feel free to send an email to helpk@outlook.com. That is K as in the K-Zern Community and Veterans Outreach. The email address is helpk@outlook.com. So without further ado, I received an email not too long ago from one of our guests, Dave Sousa, who is actually the state adjutant in the state of California for the California, no, I'm sorry, not California. All these new cities got my my excitement going here, so forgive me if I kind of like drift a little bit. But the state of Nevada, okay, Dave Sousa is the state adjutant for the VFW in Nevada and was scheduled to be part of our show today. And unfortunately, I don't have details, nor could I share them if I did. But suffice to say that there was a last-minute emergency which required his immediate attention. So, Dave, our thoughts are with you and the folks that you need to help. Our other guest, who will be joining us all the way from Oregon, and she comes to us. She is also a veteran, as is Dave and myself. But our other guest, which is also a wonderful, wonderful person, not only is she a veteran, as I mentioned, but Lisa Ellicott is also very, very actively involved in veteran and family support as a civilian. So without further ado, I want to introduce Lisa Ellicott to our show. Lisa, welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. As we talked on the phone, it was no mistake that I was able to find you, and we were able to connect and talk a little bit. It's definitely a pre-planned, ordained, spiritually led joint mission here that we've been brought together on. So I'm gonna just ask you a little bit about your military service, and could you give us an idea of like what that was about? Who is Lisa Ellicott, and tell us how you got to where you are now.
Well, straight out of high school, I went into the military. I wanted money to go to college, so I went straight into the military, and I served 2 tours where I met my husband and started having babies. So we went ahead and decided to go ahead and get out. So I've raised my babies now. They're all grown up. I went to school, got a college education after most of the kids left, and at this point, I actually had something very traumatic happen in my family last year, and I decided that every day and everything I do, I needed to seek God and let Him just take care of whatever I needed. So this is where He led me. I've always been a supporter of the military. Half of my children are in the military, and like I said, myself and my husband are veterans. But this is where God led me, and it's actually working out wonderfully.
Awesome. You mentioned being led by God, and this is like fantastic. I'm having a little bit of difficulty hearing you. I don't know if maybe poking a pin into your foot would get you to jump and yell, but is there any way we could get a little more?
Now?
Yes, now that was awesome. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I'll hold it right next to my mouth so you can hear me.
The pin worked, huh? Just go ahead and admit it. The pin worked.
Okay. It did. You're right.
Right. We have a new invention, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Yeah. So I understand you said about serving in the military and deciding that, children was the thing to have in the family at the time. So you departed the military and raised your family, and now they've grown and left the nest. Is that accurate?
Pretty much, yep.
Okay. So,
Yep.
Okay. So what have you done to, I already know the answer to this, folks, but this is my way of bringing information out of dear Lisa. What is it that you're doing now, Lisa, as far as veterans and families are concerned? What is one of the key issues that is really, really major?
Well, right now I'm currently involved with the local VFW. It's Post 1324 in Oregon City, and we have found a great need for suicide prevention. Like I said, I actually have active duty Some of my children are active duty in the military, and it is a constant conversation for soldiers in their units committing suicide. So this is a huge burden on my heart, and I'm here to, I'm a member of the VFW, and it's my mission now to get everyone suicide prevention trained so we can look for the signs, so we can help out where we can help. This is a veteran service organization, and that's what we're here for, to help the veterans.
Definitely, definitely. I need to take a real quick divergence right here and correct myself so I don't anger the folks at Fort Smith, Arkansas. I believe I may have mistakenly said Arizona when I mentioned Fort Smith, and obviously Fort Smith is not in Arizona, it's in Arkansas. So I greatly apologize and beg your forgiveness for that. Just an indication that this show, our mission, and the fact that we have 5 wonderful new cities listening in today is just so exciting. So I totally apologize to the folks at Fort Smith. It was definitely talent error, so throw all the rocks and darts and paper planes at me, and I really apologize. Thank you for staying tuned in. Thank you for your consideration. And we're going to talk more right now about veteran suicide. And Lisa, as you mentioned, it is a process. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And when we talk about it being a process, one of the issues that seems to float around is that, you know, the idea that veteran suicide is, you know, this terrible thing, which it is, but, excuse me, I think as you and I talked about and agreed, just the fact that we're talking about veteran suicide does nothing to change it.
Right. Yeah.
And
yeah, you can talk all you want. You gotta put it to action.
Right, right. And I think that's where a lot of folks may have a little bit of an unintended stumbling block, because, like, okay, yes, you're right. We need to do something. Okay, then the next question is, well, gee, what do we do? You know,
right.
And that is the most normal human response that could be even conceived, because it's not something that we go to work and decide today's the day that, you know, we're going to take this on, and we know what to do, we know where to start, and we know just exactly how to follow the protocol. You know, it doesn't work that way. So what I'm hearing, what I'm hearing is your mission, as well as ours here at the show and the K-Zern Community and Veterans Outreach, is to raise awareness, let folks know it is in fact a process. You know, it's not a thing that's just suddenly arrived at with no previous, you know, cognition. It is a process. There are identifiable contributing factors to this process. And I think you and I talked greatly about the need to be able to identify those. You know, what are we talking about? Contributing factors. Okay, what do you mean? Well, we've done research, and you and I agreed on basically the same main contributing factors, which are common to all of us veterans to one degree or another. So we're able to identify them. Once we can identify them, then I think as you and I talked, the next step is to seek out some type of resources to be able to deal with them. You know, okay, we see this, we understand what's going on, but now what do we do about it? Well, us as everyday folks may or may not be well equipped to intervene, which is the step we want to take. You know, you and I were talking about intervening to disrupt that process from continuing.
Right.
So we definitely want to provide resources, whether, you know, it's this department at the VA, because I think what we had talked about is contributing factors being mental instability whether it's a chemical imbalance that was a pre-existing prior to military service condition, which, as we also agreed, is not anyone's fault. Chemical imbalances are not controllable unless they're diagnosed and understood. So I venture to say again, nobody gets up in the morning and says, you know what, today would be a great day to get a little off-center because I think I'm going to add to my chemical imbalance somehow. It just it just doesn't happen, right? So it's like, pass me the chemical imbalance jar. I think I'll have a little more. I can't even find it in the grocery store when I go in. It's like, hey, manager, where's the chemical imbalance aisle? I know. So it's not something that folks have any control over until it's diagnosed and then treated, which is another part of this whole process. Until it's recognized, like, hey, Sergeant Lebo, you're kind of slipping a little bit here in this particular area. You've said the same thing 4 times, and it sounded new to you every time you said it. Let's take a look at that. Well, okay, so, we make an appointment with our primary care physician at the VA and discuss the issue with him or her. And the next step would be to do some testing. And without belaboring this point, we're now talking about a chemical imbalance as being possibly and partially responsible as a contributing factor on this path, this process. So if we take, so if we take that and we combine that with the trauma of combat, you know what? We can very easily have a grenade with the pin halfway out. So do we see that in the civilian world? Of course not, because in combat we have theaters and environments that can't even be imagined, let alone perceptualized in the civilian world. So it's going to create a whole new type of issue that needs to be dealt with. So there again, we understand that we need to pay particular attention to our guys and girls coming home from the theater. We're not, it would be impossible and totally irresponsible to say, well, gee, welcome home from the combat theater, and you just go ahead on over there. There's your family waiting for you, your job's sitting there waiting for you, and go ahead and take a shower, change clothes, and come on over to work. That doesn't even sound right. So we're definitely dealing with some issues peculiar to the military. So we have the mental issues, and I'm gonna turn this over to you a little bit because I know you have experience with different avenues as well, and we haven't touched on things such as physical results of combat experience. That presents its own scenarios. Employment, which when we talk about employment, there are several factors that go into giving someone a sense of purpose. And without that, we're in a world of trouble. While we're serving in the military, we definitely have our sense of purpose. There's no, we're so well trained, it's automatic. It's not like we got to get up and say, it's Monday morning, I wonder what I want to do today. No, we all know what time PT is, what time formation is, what time, we're rotating, we're doing whatever, we're hitting the foxholes, whatever. So there's no thought there, it's all regimented. When we come out of the military, however, we lose that. That's no longer the case. So we want to get into, okay, how do we handle integration? What if Sergeant Lebo slips through the cracks and he gets back from the theater, he's got the combat issues, gets off the plane and sees a whole bunch of people welcoming some other folks, whether they're military or not, but, their families are greeting them. Hey, wonderful to see you. Well, Sergeant Lebo's standing there saying, gee, that's lovely, but not happening for me. So,
Right.
Tell us a little bit more about some of the things you're seeing in the local area to you, which I'm sure mirrors the country. All the research I've done tells me that there are no unique areas. There's only some rural versus non-rural areas, highly populated versus not so densely populated. But as far as issues, we're all human. We all share them. So they're common nationwide. So I'm just going to ask you a little bit what you're seeing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to go back just a little bit because the things that you're saying is just like, triggering all of these different thoughts for me and all of these different situations that I've already dealt with and been in with. So I deal with active duty deployed right now. I deal with active duty here stateside. I also deal with National Guard, Reserve, and then veterans. So I have a large spread of people that I'm dealing with at all times, every day. But I want to go back just a little bit to a class that I recently took, and I thought the class was good. I thought the class it was a suicide prevention class here locally, and I thought the class was good. It gave a lot of information, and it really, although it wasn't targeted to veterans, it gave a lot of information about how veterans are, so their chances of actually committing suicide when they attempt it is so much greater than other people. Why? Because we know how to use guns. So, we're effective in that. We've been trained in that. So although the class itself wasn't geared toward veterans, it gave a lot of statistics. And I found that although the class gave good information and good statistics, and then they offered some gun locks and stuff like that, phone numbers to call for resources. I thought all of that was good, but I felt like it really wasn't geared to the veteran. It really didn't touch on what you've been through. And I myself have not been in combat. I was in Signal, so I was a telecommunications operator, and I was safe in a locked-up room. But I do know many people. I talk to people all day, every day, and I also have family members who have been in situations that were not good. So in having this class, I'm like, okay, we need to do something better. We need to do something better that's geared towards the veterans. And being involved with the auxiliary here, I have a lot of resources. So I contacted the Portland VA, and they, in their health department, their mental health department, they have a wonderful counselor who's coming to actually do a suicide prevention class with us this morning. As soon as I get off the phone with you, I will be doing a class with him. And he just really, when we had the conversation to organize this, he really geared it towards, I'm not going to throw a bunch of statistics at you. I'm going to tell you what veterans are going through, what they've gone through, and what they're going to go through, in the future, because this is who he works with. And so I'm really looking forward to this. I'm hoping that everybody comes. It's actually a free class. It's this morning here in Oregon City at the VFW, and it's everybody is welcome.
That's awesome. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but that is fantastic.
Yeah. One of the things you said was, when you touched on PTSD, my thought was, I made an instant connection to a civilian who's never served in the military, as if you got in a terrible car crash. Mm-hmm. And then you go and get in the car again. And you're terrified. You're looking in your mirrors, you're looking in your rearview mirror, you're looking in your side mirrors. You are terrified that somebody is going to hit you again. And that's, like, in my mind, I made that connection for for a civilian to get some sort of idea what that feels like when you have someone who's suffering from PTSD. Here's a little picture of that.
Right,
If you've ever been in a car crash, if you can imagine living your life every single day like that. So I just wanted to mention that. So when we talked yesterday, you talked about so many things about, and I actually took notes and I wrote them down, and I'm going to say them off really quick, and we can talk about each one of them. But the first one was reintegration.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was loss of purpose. The third one was isolation, medical situations like PTSD or, physical issues, prior issues, financial issues, and then onto interrupting any of those steps. And so I started thinking about each one of those steps and how I can see them now because I deal with people every single day at different stages.
Right.
And so, like the reintegration, I'm going to give you an example. I just had a soldier who just got out 2 months ago. He's local here in Oregon City. He came in on Thursday. He actually was at our county fair and stopped at the table, and they invited him to come in. So he came in on Thursday, and I started talking to him, and he said, I haven't had a job in 2 months, and he's a young guy, actually, fairly young. I think he might be right around 20-ish. And he is extremely stressed out. He was a Marine. He's stressed out. I don't have a job. I haven't had a job in 2 months. I'm used to going to work and getting a check, and I'm kind of lost here. And so I got on the phone and I called. We have a contractor who's a member here, but he's also a contractor and a veteran. And I texted him and said, hey, I got somebody here who needs a job. He said he knows how to work construction. So, I connected them. Yesterday, they both came into the VFW. We had a function. We have pie and coffee here every Friday. And we had a function here. They both came in, they met, and there you go.
That is so great.
Try it out. They're going to try it out, yeah. So, in one day, just talking to the right person, he might have had a job. And, as you say, interrupted those steps to potential. Right.
Oh, wow, you are so awesome. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's not me. I'm not awesome. I'm just going where I'm led, right?
Right, we're vessels, yeah. We're vessels, yeah.
You have to be willing to put yourself out there. You see something, you can do it. One thing I have learned is you can't, there's an old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Well, the new thing that I have learned is you can help somebody, but you can only give them as much help as they're willing to help themselves. So, with a lot of these people, they aren't ready, and they aren't ready yet. You cannot force somebody. Another issue I've come across is parents being deployed, and then when reunited with their families, they're a stranger. And that is a real thing. Their children don't really know them anymore, especially if they're younger. They haven't been a part of the daily life, and phone calls really don't cut it. We have the luxury of FaceTiming and doing phone calls and stuff now, which is something new, fairly new to military life when you're deployed. But it's just not the same when mom is running the household alone, or somebody is running the household alone, and the kids are operating just on that one parent. When the deployed parent comes back, you are an outsider. You are now an outsider. You've been gone 6 months, 9 months, a year. You're an outsider, and that creates isolation for the family, for that soldier, and for the family.
I was just about to add in that yes, there is no such thing as a 6-month deployment. I don't know that there's ever been. So what I'm getting at is...
I have a National Guard unit that's on 6 months right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's going to be extended, I'm sure. But the point I'm making is exactly what you're saying. you're not gone for a short period of time, a week,
Right.
perhaps. And the images that are conjured up in your family's mind while you're away can be horrendous. They can be scary. They can be whatever. And the anxiety of your return is high in the family members' minds. They're loaded with anxiety because they have no idea what to expect. They see the worst on the news. They see the worst on TV. And it's like they have no idea what to expect. So there can be all kind of stages of fear going on. And in my household, my son is now 18, and one thing I don't mind while I do broadcasts is sharing my own personal experiences. But my son is now 18, and he still has reservations about Dad. So it's, it ties in greatly with what you were saying about PTSD. Your illustration was awesome. It was spot on. And the other side of that is, it's not only the service member that can incur the PTSD. The family members can have it as well. So
Right. I want to tell you a story about that. Can I interject for a minute?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so I have a family whose the dad has been deployed, I think, about 7, 8 times. Well, now because they actually can talk on the phone and talk, FaceTime each other. So he's going over to zones that are not good zones. He's going over to zones where you're hearing things that we don't hear in the United States. We're not used to that. We are very, for the most part, coddled here. But he's going over to these zones, and he's on the phone to his family. They've got the whole family on FaceTime, the kids, the mom, grandma, whoever, and sirens go off, and explosions are occurring. And the family and he's like, I got to go, and immediately your family just goes into shutdown mode. They're just like, I can't even believe he what's going on, and immediate stress for the family, unbearable stress for the family.
Right, yeah, because exactly what you're saying, they assume the worst, and they don't hear anything for days or weeks to know any better. So they have no idea whether their parent, what their condition is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. Like I mentioned, this is your show. I'm so happy. I'm so happy about what you're doing, and so humbled to meet you, and to understand that this was divinely led. So,
for sure.
Yeah, I seriously did yesterday. I just kept walking around going, wow, wow. Just seeing God's hand at work was just amazing, as always.
It is. It's totally amazing. It's, far more than you could have ever imagined, for sure. It is always like that when you just trust in the Lord, and the Lord just leads you to where, and you are obedient and do what you're supposed to do. That's just how it is. Last weekend we had here at the auxiliary, we had our new district president come in, and we had a training for being in the VFW. And one of the things she talked about was suicide. We just had national convention for the VFW, and a commander committed suicide at the convention.
Oh my groceries.
At the convention, and she said, one of the things that I really want to hit on this year is suicide prevention. And then she told us the story, and of course everybody just wanted to melt right there and crying, because how you don't know, and some people's faces you just don't know what's going on in there. You just don't know. I talked to my daughter. My daughter is actually stationed at the Joint Base up here. She's active, and she was telling me, Mom, 8 people have committed suicide in my unit. And I know that's this year. She just got there this year. I think she got there January or February. Yeah, in her unit. alone, 8 people have committed suicide. So I was like, I'm wondering, is she exaggerating or is that realistic?
Uh-huh.
So I actually went online and got the quarterly report for Joint Base, and and then I went all the way back to 2017 and I compared them, and the rate of suicide is just exponentially increasing. There are, in the first quarter of this year on Joint Base up here by me, there are, I think it was 18 or 19, I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry, 18 or 19 more suicides the first quarter of this year than there was last year.
Wow.
These are young people and old people. These are privates. These are officers. These are sergeants. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your income. It doesn't matter your age. What is going on? We need to figure it out.
Yes,
we got to figure out.
Yes, we got to find out what is pushing people, service members, to make a permanent choice to solve what should be a temporary situation. You know, what is going, like exactly what you're saying. What is pushing people to make this choice?
Right.
I received an email from a listener, and it's regarding my mention of my son's apprehensions, even at age 18. And I'm an old timer. I was in 78 to 82. And came home a mess, a total mess. I was convinced that civilian society had no clue. I served, I did what I did, therefore, I don't want to say I was king of the hill, but I had a mega chip on my shoulder towards civilians.
Right.
And the law, and even police who wanted to enforce the law. Well,
right.
I had a tumultuous couple of years going on, and eventually my son came along, and these are not things that I told him, but there were some experiences that I have no idea why some people that knew me thought he needed to know. To this day, I still can't figure it out. But it didn't help matters, and I was still far from being calm, cool, and collected.
Right.
I still have heightened awareness where I'm always looking rooftops. I'm always looking clearing areas when I walk into a room. Just,
right.
You know, it never goes away. That's part of it. He made some mistakes of ambushing Daddy from behind, you know, which kids do. There was no injury as a result of it, but there was a fairly strong reaction, and I had to explain to him, you know, why that this is not okay. And there were some instances where some people got hurt, and that I'll just leave it at that. But he was unfortunate enough to have witnessed an incident or two. And the one thing he looks for, I'm very well dealing with it. I apologize, folks. On the line here, and I am reaching out to her right now. So we'll get her right back on the line. And I'm guessing you probably want to hear more from her. Yes, you're back on the air.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's quite all right. Not sure if it was your end or mine, but we solved it. So.
Okay. All right. So anyways, back to this story. The family, because it was parents and siblings, were not covered under counseling. And he said they have suffered. So when you're talking about your son and your wife, you know, suffering from, and they know it's coming when they can see it in your eyes. They know it's coming. But, you know, the same situation here, however, this family wasn't covered under, you know, under DEERS or the, you know, the medical or the counseling or any of that. And that is such an important step as well, is the people that are close to you, they also need to get help.
Yes. I couldn't agree with you more. We've lived it. We are living it.
Yeah.
You know, the the thing that I need to make known here, which I think is really important, we don't, we really don't think our family members are affected. You know,
Right.
and it's again, it's totally normal human nature, um, because we believe that this is my problem, and especially in the military, that slogan of an army of one. Holy Christmas! Let me tell you, they destroyed a lot of people with that one, but
Right.
it it
Yeah.
definitely has, you know, on the positive side, which I always try to look for, it definitely gives leadership a chance and builds strong leadership because we we do want to be self-sufficient in that time of need when it needs to be.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Right.
but the carryover there again is, my assumption was my issues affected only me.
Right.
Not my son. Well, yes, when it finally um, became apparent that, hey, something also needs to be looked at here with your son, and he finally now also is in therapy, um, and finally has found just the right therapist to be able to trust and build a trusting relationship with, to communicate and communicate deeply. So,
Right.
all these elements are so important. Um, I'm so glad we have this show and we have it for the hour, and even so, the hour hardly even allows us to scratch the surface. It's just,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's just giving us the ability to start opening the door. But the point I
Right.
did want to make is my son is becoming. I'm seeing his health improve overall, and I don't mean just physical, but I'm seeing his attitude improve, his positive
Right.
outlook's improving, his "I'm okay, you're okay" is getting stronger. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's the other side of the coin is there's a lot of guilt on me for having inflicted these things on him. So, you know, it's just part of the
Right.
reality we deal with as veterans. Um, so
Yeah.
I venture to
I
say, go
really,
ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no. Well, I really want to say that, I'm hoping that we're progressing far enough. It's not, there is no system that's perfect. People suffer trauma when they're in certain situations. But the thing about that is, for you having the guilt that you just said that you have for inflicting on him, when you were in that state, you were not in a state to help anybody, including yourself.
You are so right.
I'm not a counselor. I am not a licensed anything, but I'm going to have to say that you were not in a state to not only not help yourself, but not help anybody else. And you have to move through that guilt, and you have to just make it better as you get better. But you cannot carry that guilt.
I I have to say you are absolutely correct. Um, Yet, and I agree. I agree. I'm not someone who dwells on things uh, and digs the pit even deeper, so to speak. But
Right.
there are times when it gets pretty heavy, um,
Yeah.
because no parent wants to do harm to their child.
Right.
And when you
I get that. I get that.
yeah, and when you discover you have, it's like, you know, you're a parent, you love your child, well, you're going to beat yourself up about it because, gosh darn it, if you're not going to let somebody else harm your child, you sure as heck don't want to be the one to do it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
while the current thinking and current therapy tells me, you cannot change the past, which is true. Um, the
Mhm.
only thing to do is make the future better, make today and tomorrow better, which he and I are doing, and I'm seeing that. And the times of self-loathing, I guess, for lack of a better description, are getting smaller and further between. So there is
Right.
progress there because another, I really, really, really like you. You are so accurate. Right. Sorry, husband, I didn't mean it that way, buddy. Right?
I know. I know.
Yeah, but you are so accurate and so wise on so many things. And you know, when when I fly, and as much younger, and they would tell you, before you take care of your kids, take care of yourself, put on your life vest and what things, take care of yourself first. And I'm like, what, are you kidding me? My kid might not make it if I don't take care of him first. So my thing was, no, I'm going to take care of my kid. Well, now I'm seeing this in a little different light, and I totally agree with exactly what you said. If I'm not right, and by right I mean 100% at my best, I can't offer that to my son.
Right.
I don't have it to offer. We can only give
Right.
what we have. So it comes back to the waking up and deciding you're going to take a little chemical imbalance in your diet today. Nobody does
Yeah.
that. So I didn't
Yeah.
decide, well, I'm going to have some issues and therefore, la-di-da. And so no, I that was not intentional. I'm going to ask you a real quick question. And
But
I'm sure I know the answer. I'm kind of like one of those attorneys. You never ask a question you don't already know the answer to. But
okay.
right? um, we've had some listeners ask if you will be back next week, same time, same channel, and I want to reassure them that we can. But in all fairness, I must run this by you. But I'm pretty sure we can do that. How do you look on next week?
I think absolutely. There are so many things that I want to talk about, that I want to talk about with you, and I want to hear. Yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. Not only are you the greatest audience of all time, but we may now have one of the greatest co-hosts of all time. God is good,
Yeah,
I
no,
tell
I
you.
try.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're down to about 7 minutes left of airtime, and I'm going to forego a long close because this is like the meat is what's so important. Um, but one of the things we were asked about was some thoughts on the debacle that, well, we're just going to say Brandon and his and his oh dear Lord, I don't know if I really want to get started on this because I may end up getting banned from the air. You can't use that kind of language on the air.
Now, look, you've got an important job to do here. You've got information to put out there to people, so you mind your manners on air.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You heard that, folks. So, Biden's whole way of handling that, and especially the Gold Star families, um, you know, he did nothing but follow Hillary Clinton with her situation with getting people killed. Uh, yeah, this is not. Talking about Biden initially was kind of humorous, but we're to the point now where it's like, it's not funny. And how do we let some butthole who has no military bearing, respect, or even consideration for families of military personnel in office to make decisions which only cost us lives? And then on top of it, he's just going to be very how would I say? Oh, somebody actually called me this yesterday. Disrespectful. There it is. They said they thought I was being disrespectful, but wouldn't tell me why. So maybe they were just kidding. But Biden and his arrogant dissing towards the Gold Star families is pretty horrendous, and we're coming up on the anniversary of his horrendous, botched Afghan withdrawal. I mean, it comes down to we can cut to the chase and we can say, gee, why? Well, it's the answer I give my son and I give everyone. Follow the money. You want to know why anything's happening in the upper echelons? Just follow the money. It's not because they care about the American people, because obviously he doesn't. And I'm real sick of watching him sneer in our faces, basically telling us we're stupid to our faces. That's really becoming burdensome. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to hear from some folks this week as far as thoughts on the entire situation, and I think we may take upon ourselves a mission to somehow let some Gold Star families know just how much we feel their loss, the senselessness of it, and we want to be there for them because we can't change it, but we can be there and be supportive. So in our listening audience, I will ask for this. Please take the email address helpkay, HELPKAY, at outlook.com, and if you would, just shoot me a couple of emails this week and let us know some things that you would like to have off your chest, some ideas that you may think we could do to help support our Gold Star families. And you're welcome to include Lisa Ellicott, that's ELLICOTT, in the email, and I will make sure to get with her about everything throughout the week. But that would be wonderful. We want our audience to be part of what we're doing here. It's your show. We have no show without you. So I really want to hear from you what we can do to help and what you would like to have contributed on your behalf to the show. And Lisa, we still have about a minute and a half if you'd like to add anything to our closing today.
Wow. It's been quite an honor to be able to be here and to talk to people and to talk with you. I really enjoyed talking with you yesterday and talking with you today. I feel like we just have barely touched on, like you said, just barely scratched the surface. But this whole, I'm not sure what we're going to do next week, but I do want to talk more about the suicide prevention and the different areas to watch for. I'm interested to see what the people have to say, what they've heard, what they've heard come from us, and what that triggered for them, and maybe some input that they have to say as well.
That's excellent. That is excellent. The email is out there. And I definitely want to apologize. See, I never run out of my list of apologies to make. The folks at Sault Ste. Marie in Michigan, I understand that I mispronounced the city, and obviously we don't want to do that. I may have to fire myself once again. But I do apologize for mispronouncing the Sault Ste. Marie, and I actually understand it is